Now that we have the roadway surface created, we're going to add a shoulder to it on the outside. And this shoulder will be 6 feet wide and have a 3% cross slope. So beginning in our manual, our training guide, we'll be on page 15 of the guide, and we'll go on to the end of the roadway that takes us all the way to the bottom of page 18. So let's go ahead and get into our CAD file and open up our site project and continue working with the main road here. So like I said, we want to create a shoulder. In this particular case, I haven't drawn a graphic that represents the shoulder. But I could go out there, obviously, and copy parallel, for example, make a copy 6 feet, and create a shoulder graphic. Set it on the right level, weight, and color. And then slope to it using the Modeler Elements New tool, slope from one side element to another, minus 3%. And I would do that for each portion of my roadway. So that's one way to do it. What I'd like to do here is, using the new Edit tool, go to the Section tab and kind of look at using a section in this case. Because my shoulder is always 6 feet wide, it's always 6 feet, one edge is always 6 feet away from the edge of pavement, it maintains that horizontal-vertical relationship. So it's a good chance to use the section in those cases. Now if my shoulder was going to widen and then come back and get more narrow, then I probably wouldn't want to use the section tool. But here I'm going to go ahead and set the section tool up. So I'm going to use a table method versus graphic. Graphic would be I had a cell that represents this section or feature and the surface of it and cross section, and so I would just grab that cell that looks like the cross section of the surface and it would populate the table for me. But here I'm going to actually create the table. The feature type will be boundary, since this shoulder will be the last thing in my road, and it's going to be 6 feet away from the edge of pavement, so an offset distance of 6, and I'm going to drop down minus 0.18 to account for the 3% cross slope over 6 feet. So I start at the edge of pavement, and we're going to go out 6 feet and drop down 0.18. That forms the surface of my shoulder. As far as drawing the element out there, if I leave the pay item column blank, it'll just use whatever default here. I want to go ahead and set the symbology of the graphic it plays by selecting a pay item or an item out of my DNC manager. So again, we're using the DDB file to help us draw things. I'm going to scroll down to the pay item folder. I'm going to go to Plan, Roadway, and then there I have an item called DESSHLDR, or shoulder. Highlight it, click OK, and it'll set the symbology like that. Then I'll add it to my list. Now later on we'll build a section that has more than one entry, so you can keep adding to the list. Now I just need to decide what elements do I want to put this section on. They have to be site elements. So I click Select Reference. I select the edges of pavement that I defined earlier that I want the section to go on. Only the ones that get the section. Then I click Set, and I set the direction. In this case I want to set it to the outside. Then I click Apply, and it goes out there and puts the shoulder out there, and you can kind of see that it drew a red graphic, which happens to exist on a level called DESSHldr. And if I turn my display of my model on, I can see it actually is now part of the model. And because it's a boundary, the contours stop right at the edge of the shoulder for the roadway. Now I want to take a look real quick at that roadway and make sure it's correct in kind of a cross-section or profile view. So under my modeler, I'm going to go to Analysis, Profile. The profile allows me to cut a cross-section or profile anywhere I want, just for analysis purposes, of any surface that I want. So in my case, I'll just do the site model. So down along the bottom it says Site Model, Tower, and it has a white line graphic. I could change that by double-clicking. I'm just going to add that to the list. Then I'm going to go to Profile, and I'm going to click Place Element. Click Place Element. I data point on one side of the road, I data point on the other, and I can see the roadway. Again, it's kind of exaggerated. This is exaggerated. If I check my Preferences tab in Profile, it's exaggerated 10 to 1. But I can see that I crowned it correctly, and it looks okay. So I can place another element over here temporarily. Reset. Data point, reset. Data point. See the pond. So you can get an idea of what's going on your surface. Real quickly with the profile tool.